I like to just give away knowledge, give away information. Some of my clients came over from my firm before, so they're all great referral sources. So
Okay.
that's kind of how I like to grow organically. I made a lot of cold calls, is what I'm saying. My prior firms,
Yeah.
particularly cold call people. I have circles of influence. I'm not expert in everything. I know what I don't know. I know what I do know. I said that
Hmm.
backwards. Uh, Socrates type thing, the only
Yeah.
person who knows anything is that they don't know anything. But what I do know is I can find any answer. I have some professionals that I can lean on for certain areas, like if it's a, a difficult tax question, have EAs you can talk to. If it's a law question or trust question, I have attorneys I can talk to. And another good thing about that is with it being local, these are usually people who I've known for pretty much my whole life as well, who've gone off in their uh, professional career. So intelligent, knowledgeable people. And then, like I said, just people, if you do good work for people, like you gotta give it away, right?
Yeah.
Like you do things, it all comes back. If you do bad things, those are gonna come back too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great thing to have a business that just runs mostly on referrals and not having to always fish and kind of see what's out there and spend that time because you're right. I mean, I think there's several studies that have been read that if someone refers somebody to whether it's a doctor, a CPA, a financial advisor, they're more than likely going to go with them versus me just randomly getting called by and that individual or just me trying to find you online. So that's absolutely true. And that's a great practice to have, especially if that's kind of how you run your practice. Now, when it comes to actually, let's say you get the client in the door um, through LinkedIn or other marketing efforts that you do on a typical week a great client experience is key differentiator for a lot of firms because at the end of the day, we can all say that we all do similar things with the investments and the allocations, but truly what separates a good advisor from a great advisor is that client experience and that trust and making sure that they're knowing that you're their person no matter what, good and bad times. So can you kind of walk us through and some of our readers and listeners too, like what's your meeting process? Because when I worked at firms, it was maybe we had three meetings and then they would close to become clients. One would be a review, one insurance, one asset allocation. What's kind of your process for when clients come into the office or you have those Zoom calls online with them?
Perfect. Yeah. So my process is probably a little bit different. I don't know. So the first meeting is going to be just a get to know you meeting, just get to know me, introduction meeting, kind of like we're doing right now. We won't really pull out any numbers, like show you anything. I'm not trying to show you how smart I am. I'm trying to make
Mm,
sure that you're a good fit for me and that I'm a good fit for you in that meeting. Because like I said, the number will be capped. Not the number now, but the number will be capped eventually. So I really want to work with people who I want to work with and who want to work with me. So we'll have that introductory meeting, uh, usually 30, 45 minutes. And then towards the end of that meeting, I'll get some of their like information, let them know that we can have another meeting. And in that meeting, I'll present to them a bit of a financial plan, not the whole thing, but just some ideas, different things. I'll show them like the actual data. I'll pull out their investments and show them what their investments are doing now, maybe some things you could change to make them do better. Because a lot of people are just in target date funds, which are just
sure.
a scam. Their
Yeah.
target date funds are, I feel some way about target date funds. I'm sorry. So then
No, I agree.
at
It's
the end of that, oh, go ahead.
it's frustrating that it's like the laziest form of investing is that type of product. But go ahead. Yeah, I completely am on your camp when it comes to target date funds. They absolutely have no benefit whatsoever, and then they're in qualified plans. That's even worse. But yeah, continue. Definitely agree with you on that, though.
Right. So then we just, and then we're sitting and we're talking. This meeting's probably like an hour. We're just talking. I'm telling them, showing them the numbers, showing them the math to it, because like I'm an analytic at heart. So I do like going in there and showing the math. I might get too deep into the math. Talk about just consequences of ideas of showing them. A lot of people think they're at a certain risk tolerance when they're really not that risk tolerance. Their investments usually off from where their estimates are. So in between the first, oh, and so in between the first meeting and the second meeting, I will send them out some information for them to send me back, like an investment statement policy, risk tolerance assessment. Um, send them over any things just to let them know the process. In between that meeting, the people who generally take care of that information and get it back to me, those are generally people who want to be good fits too. Another way that you're just kind of like phasing yourself in out the process because And even if they don't, that lets me know that this person would require more work just to get the information I need, because that's a good thing. So you have to set that standard. So usually at the end of the second meeting, uh, I'll quote them, let them know what it'll look like to work together with me. If we can either do the financial planning, which would be a holistic planning approach for a year. Uh, no, we won't just automatically charge you at the end of the next year. It'll just be a plan group, or we'll take the holistic approach to financial planning. We could do the assets under management, which is what people typically think about when they think about a financial planner. So you'll do that for a percentage fee, or you could do an investment vehicle if you need insurance or anything like that. And let them know that they can work with me as a fiduciary in one, two, or all three ways, right? So
Yeah.
at, at the end of that meeting, they'll either decide that they want to continue or they'll decide they're not ready to continue. If they decide that they want to continue at that point, we'll have a third meeting. At this meeting, we'll sit down and we'll go deep into the numbers because you do have to get the numbers, you have to do the data. So we'll probably sit 30 minutes to an hour doing the data gathering session. I'll come back to the lab. We'll meet again where I'll come back and bring some of the recommendations that I made for them, present them to them. If they're good with the recommendations, depending on the level of the level of however hard it is to implement this plan.
Okay.
It may take a couple or several more meetings to get the plan implemented. But once we get the plan implemented, so we're meeting maybe five, maybe six. Once we have the plan implemented, we'll meet quarterly after that. So
Okay.
we'll
Yeah, I
do
love it.
everything we talked about.
And then you mentioned with the asset manager that's altruist, and is that like a third party asset manager, fund manager, or what's that look like for the client, and how do they like what's kind of the benefit free up for you and for the client as well? Like what's kind of been the reason why you decided to outsource that bit versus in house? Is it because of the practice size, or just because you wanted to focus on mainly planning, or what was kind of the decision behind the asset management side?
Oh, I'm sorry. So Altruist is the custodian.
Oh,
No,
I'm sorry.
I manage
You're
the
right.
assets. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Altruist is the
Awesome. Okay.
custodian. Yeah, so they're
Great.
like Schwab or they're like
Yeah. Like
Fidelity,
interactive
those guys.
brokers, all those guys. Awesome. Okay. So when you come to your asset management side, so man, you do everything. That's awesome. I talk to a lot of advisors, and a lot of them will just, there's when it comes to, like, let's say, financial planning tech stack, they use Money Guide Pro or all these other different types of softwares. Can you talk a little bit about, like, when you manage the assets, when you do the financial planning, and you mentioned going to the lab and coming back, um, you know, for our business owners out there that are also practice IRA and SEC firms, what's kind of been your tax stack you use? Like, what have you found that's good? What have you found that's been not great? I know I have one IRA that I spoke to that just used Apple's Pages for their financial plans. It's like 3 to 5 pages. They don't have those complex financial planning software. So what kind of softwares are you using, Marcus? And if not, how do you kind of cultivate the plan and the asset allocation and with the amount of time that there is in the week in a business day?
Right. Yeah. So like you said, we've used some e-money guide software. We have different kind of, we're still testing out the different software, plan software, because that's a
Sure.
big commitment to commit to as far as which one you're using. I do like Morningstar. We use Morningstar to run some of our analysis in the background. HubSpot for some CRM stuff. Uh, Obviously, the whole Microsoft Office suite we use for a lot of things. SharePoint's a good thing. We use some Adobe for different things. So we use the complete tech stack. We just kind of cover up. And Altruist actually offers a lot of technical things on their side as well.
Like research and questions, and yeah,
Right.
that's awesome. That's very cool. So also when it comes to when we're talking about AI and data, because that's really what the IRA report is. It's really looking at underneath the hood of firms and concerns I have with people talking about, I don't need a financial planner. I can just go into Chat GBT or Gemini, plug in my potential age, risk tolerance, and things like that. What do you see if we're going to look out to 2030? What do you think like a modern firm would look like? And do you think that there's going to be a problem with AI and chatbots that would take the role of financial advisors or more complement them? How do you kind of see the advent of AI with what's going on these days, Marcus?
Oh man, AI is definitely coming to take over if you're not prepared for it. AI right now, people have robo advisors that they use. People have AI that they use and talk to every day, like it's for their therapists. Some people use AI for different things. As far as building portfolios, once AI, 2030, the market will probably be trading 24 hours a day. They're moving towards that. So it's going to be
Yeah.
hard as an advisor to trade 24 hours a day, right? To be on top of those things. So yeah, if you're not growing with the AI, I don't use AI for to build any models or anything like that myself, but I know eventually that day is coming, where you can use AI or you have a strong temp behind you or behind someone who's preparing all these things. Otherwise, you're going to lose it behind in like AI. You see how it's taken over in other industries. I think Microsoft just laid off 9,000 employees the other day. And they won't say that it's based on AI, but AI is compressing the roles that people held. On the other side of AI, for someone like myself who has a smaller business, it helps because it helps with multiple hats, right? You can use AI for different type of things. So I embrace AI, but I know people like you've had mutual funds for years that just track the S&P. You've had
Hmm.
robo advisors in the last maybe decade. People want to sit down and talk with people, right? That I don't know if that ever is going to leave. I don't know if the new generation doesn't want to talk to people at all, but that's where you can differentiate yourself. It's advice. The idea is like ChatGTP can't come up with better ideas than I can. I mean, it thinks it can, but that data is still dirty sometimes. It's
Mm.
just the personal connection. It can't read into you. Like a text has no tone.
Yeah, I agree. I think the AI training is still a long ways away. I remember reading a article through Anthropic, which is one of the competitors to OpenAI, and they essentially assigned a AI that they created to run a vending machine business, and they would have a human, of course, know that there's a human restocking the vending machine, but the AI controlled the shipping or the supplies, ordering, maintenance, collection of cash, putting cash in, how much to charge, everything. And I think Anthropic was saying after like the third week, it got a little weird where it started thinking it was a human, where it was physically changing out the Cokes and the Sprites out of the vending machine. And it was like, I'm over here. And then it
Right.
had a company that it spoke to where the company's like, we don't have an employee that works here by that name. And instead of saying, I apologize, the AI said, we're going to change vendors. We're not working with you. You're calling me a liar. So, yeah,
Wow.
it's getting
Right.
crazy. There's not a lot of training, and you're absolutely right. And I agree with you 100%. Like the AI can do wonders when it comes to maybe some marketing, but going over financials and numbers, especially for humans that all have very differing financial needs, is going to be very hard for it for the next couple of years. Where a lot of firms are going to definitely be safe. So yeah, that's understandable. Now, do you come across do yourself investors, and how do you make the argument for? Well, let's say this. What do you kind of? Let's say I wanted to come to you. I am going to retire. I have maybe a couple step plans or a 401k, and I'm needing maybe to set up trust or just setting up my legacy and things like that. What do you typically charge clients? Do you just manage the money and just charge a fee off the managed money? Do you charge a fee on hourly, or what's kind of your compensation that you look at when it comes to working exclusively with clients?
Right. So yeah, like you said, there's they can pay me in one of three ways. Either they can just say I want investment, just take this money, put it in on our Truist platform for
Mm,
a flat fee. That would just be a percentage fee. If they want to engage in the entire financial planning process, that would be a planning fee. And that would depend on the complexity of the plan, right? Depending on how deep we're going into the plan to how much work they need. If it's someone who's just coming in and needs their 401k rebalanced every few months or you know what I mean? Like that type of stuff wouldn't be the
yeah.
same as someone who's coming in, like you said, looking to establish a trust. And in that situation, if they were looking in, coming in like to establish a trust, we would get to that part, but we would step way back and figure out like why do you think you need a trust? Because a lot of people think they need trust who may not exactly need trust. If it's a control issue, if you need control of what you have, okay, I understand that. We have attorneys who we could reach out to in that situation, like I said, for trust. But if it's a lot of people just the trust laws change when they get the tax cut job act. They like
Mm,
raise the limits. It used to be like hundreds of thousands be before the gift benefit kicked in. You had to
okay.
keep it on tax, and then it went to like millions.
Wow.
So all the people who need a trust to get the taxes, that's not exactly the case anymore. So people are a little misguided on trust. Just kind of tell them slow down and trust. And I know you just mean in general. So yeah, there are people who want that type of advice, just to sit down and talk about it. And even though I'll say like I can't establish a trust for you, I'll tell them quick, you need to talk to a lawyer because you want that thing like tight, legally tight. But I can
Yeah.
help you with it, and I can help you with the investments inside of that trust. So that's how I would help someone who, if they were just looking like for trust.
Okay, great. So essentially, it's like, if I come to you for asset management and financial planning, if I needed those other things that only maybe an estate attorney can handle, or even a CPA, even, you're saying there's a network for that where clients can be serviced and being taken care of in that aspect under your umbrella as well.
Absolutely. There are people that I work with, just like my circle of influence. And that, if they have some questions that they don't cover, they can
Hmm.
send people over my way and I can answer questions for them as well. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This is a very great story so far. And honestly, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, have you always been that way, or have you kind of just, because I know you mentioned you've been GM, production management, pretty much most of your life. But before that, I mean, what made you wanted to just say, hey, because you did mention earlier, which we'll let the listeners remember, is that you typically don't want to start your own IRA right away. But if you're bold and you have the savings and you just really want to get out there, then Marcus has a great vision. But Marcus, can you tell me a little bit about, like, have you always had this kind of capacity to be an entrepreneur, or did you just have like an aha moment one time and said, hey, I want to start my own practice?
Who knows what capacity I have, right? Where this
Right.
capacity came from. So no, I do always remember like I have this desire to learn. So like I have this insatiable desire to like learn. I'm always seeking to learn something new, something new. Like, and when I learn something, I want to learn it very deeply, go deep into what I'm learning. I don't know, like when I first started, my first experience, I guess, as an entrepreneur would start when I was a child. There was a lot of us growing up around, like we were family. I grew up with a single mom for most of my life,
Mm.
but like my family was around, so it was always a great experience. We didn't know we didn't have, we didn't have. We had a lot of love. So one of the first things I did when I was like 4 or 5 is I bought like a gumball machine. I guess I bought it. My mom gave me money, and you could put money in it and get gum out of it. And I
Yeah,
put
yeah.
it up there and let my cousins get it, and I got those coins. So that's probably when it first started. And then in high school, I took a business class, intro to business class, and just kind of fell in love with business from there, man. Like that's really where it sparked off. Was like senior year at Sun Valley High School. It was just, or I'm sorry, like freshman year at Sun Valley High School, and then just you join different clubs throughout the time. I've always been business minded, so all my majors have always been business. And then as far as just being entrepreneurial, it's just like, yeah, people have different thoughts on the risk of being entrepreneurs or not. But and this isn't my idea. I didn't come up with this. I heard someone else say it. It's a great thought though. Like if you're a W-2 employee, not knocking W-2 employees, or 1099, you
Hmm.
really are you're 100% dependent on the employer. Whereas if you're an entrepreneur, you have different ways to you have more control in my mind over how you can earn income. If you have 100 clients and 10 clients fire you, you still have 90 other clients. Whereas if you only have one job and that one job lets you go, you don't have any source of income. And outside, maybe you have investments, but it's just kind of different type of mindset. So I guess to get back to if you wanted to jump into this, well, first of all, you have to pass certain tests. So you will have to have knowledge. So that's a good thing about RIAs. RIAs, people who work with people RIAs, they do have knowledge, right? Because those tests aren't to some people they're easy, to some people they're hard, but they're definitely something you have to spend time in learning. So,
Yeah, and another thing that a lot of people don't realize, especially with IRAs, which is really great, a lot of people think, well, if I need to be a financial advisor, I got to go work for a firm, and all these big firms may not hire me because I don't have the caliber or the background. And a lot of people don't realize IRAs, you don't necessarily need to be hired by a firm to get your licensing. So IRAs, you just need your 65 and you can take that yourself. And, that's definitely a long study. I can't imagine. I remember when I first took it, I think I did like 6 months, 7 months, failed the first time, second time got it. But yeah, it's one of those practices where if you're lean You have some savings and you have a supportive partner, or just, just yourself. And maybe, I have a dog with me as well that I'm like, he was my first employee, he'd be in the office with me every morning while I'm making calls. But yeah, it's like one of those things where it's this practice is very unique, very lucrative if you can, find that niche and make sure that you're kind of sticking to the grind every day, and not really focusing on things that are kind of less important. So, when it comes to that, when it comes to wearing all those hats, like how do you decide what to work on each day, Marcus? Like how do you balance the urgent tasks like client requests, ACATs, transfers, or meetings, with the important long-term work like business development? So like what do you use as your personal philosophy, or like is it just you kind of get to the desk and then you address it? But what's kind of the way you've done your structure of your firm every day when you're addressing those priorities?
Oh no, I'm very structured. I'm a time blocker. I know it sounds cliche, but I block time off in certain amounts. I'm a creature of habit. Like as far as like how my day starts, how my day ends. The first hour and pretty much the last hour of my day are always gonna be the same. Stuff in between may be a little bit different. But like even like with writing, like I'll still write, but I don't have as much time to write or be quoted anymore. So I'll block off like a couple hours on Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe for
Mm,
that. And I'll let anyone who I may already have a relationship know, like, if you need anything, just let me know then, because I can get it done for you then. As far as clients, anytime if I need to meet a client, that's going to be my top priority because they have something that needs to happen. So I'll schedule around that. But every day I'm up. I'm up before most people. You know, it's a real old man trait when you start telling people how early you get up. So it's
yeah.
just like I'm, I'm up before most people. Just seeing what's happening in the markets. I love the markets. I love the way these things function. And then, yeah, so by the time most people probably start their day, I've accomplished a lot of different things. And by the time the market's open, I'm ready to tackle that aspect of it as well. One thing that I try to make uh, time for is to take a break from working every day, at least from like, 30 minutes an hour. Because
Mm,
when you're a solopreneur, you will find yourself working, it'll be, 8, 10, 12 o'clock at night. Those
yeah.
days happen. They just happen. You look up, you're like, oh, well, this has been a long one. So try to block off time and always try to make time for the family as well. So you have to make time where you're not available. Your time's your most important asset. People tend to
Yeah.
think that it is money, time, because people with money can't buy time. You can't buy more time, I should say. Like you can't buy a way to live longer than you're going to live.
Yeah. I think there was that gentleman on Twitter. His name's Brian something, but he has this don't die thing. And he's 50 now and he looks like a 20-year-old, but he spends several $1 million a year on medications, injections, and things like that. And he looks super healthy. But you're right. Time, you can be a billionaire and be Elon Musk, but you still can't fight, death and taxes. So that's
Right.
absolutely true.
My wife and
Um,
I watched that. He has a Netflix special about him.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my
That
wife's
was,
another very important part of all this, man. She's a great
that's
part.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my spouse, she's been with me 6 years, and when I started my first firm, I was making nothing for like, and a lot of people don't realize that either. You're not making
Yeah.
a lot of money, the first couple months. It's like any business, it's not like I can go. Maybe if I were to go door to door and I had a landscaping business and I go for a week, I can land a client or two clients and that'll cover my bills. But with IRAs, you're paying a couple $100 to register with the state. You're paying a couple $100 for your fees, for your licensing, your LLC, everything. And then you got to buy the CRMs and you got to buy the technology, and then you got to figure out like what partner you're going to be with. So it's a long process, and I agree with you completely. It's not something where everyone can do it at the end of the day, especially given the volatility and just having to be responsible for somebody else's money at the end of the day. And so, given that, extra burden you guys have and everybody has in this industry, given that current market environment, I know today's the first, and obviously the jobs number came out. I think we did like 147,000 jobs. But what's kind of the market single most important conversation you're having with your clients right now, given the presidency and just kind of how you look at the world when it comes to the assets moving back and forth between the U.S. and Europe and the Middle East and all that? What's kind of on your radar that you're seeing is going to happen, or what you forecast or kind of look at to mitigate for your clients in the future?
Got you. So yeah, well, one thing I like to think about with clients is, like I said, I'll send things before we start. So we're gonna have these investment statement policies, these risk tolerance assessments, and we're gonna go back to the why. That's why the why is so important. I'll spend a lot of time talking about the why. Why are we investing this way? Why are we? What's the long-term goal? What's the short-term goal? Where are we trying to get? As far as the noise that's coming in outside, I call it noise with air quotes. It's not really noise. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I try to look through that with my investment policy and look at, actual companies and earnings and things. You can't control everything. There's always going to be something if you look at the stock market, if you look at the history of the economy, there's always something that's going to happen. Be it Desert Storm, be it the dot-com bubble, be it the housing recession, or be it COVID, right? And then we just
Mm.
have what we had at the beginning of the year. There will always be something that's going to happen. There's always something that's coming up. Sometimes I'll tell that with potential clients, the ones or prospects. They'll be like, well, we can't do it yet. There's this came up, that came up. There will always be something. There will always be something that's going to come up. Let's remember why we did this. Let's go through this process and let's get to remember what the end goal is. We like to look far out and pull it back in. People talk about your hierarchy of needs, right? Where if people don't have those basic needs met, shelter, food, etc., then they can't make informed decisions about whether or not they are going to invest or just go all the cash. Like I'm never going to tell them to go all cash, but if they won't go all the cash, something like that. You
Yeah.
have to understand like mindset and mentality because people, when you start, you can sit down with someone and say, "We're going to buy low and sell high," but people do the opposite. People
Yeah.
sell low and buy high. It's just like the mental mind state behind everything. So I think that, and this is for anyone looking for a professional to work with, you should take that hierarchy of needs into looking at them as well when you go into like, is this person, because clients can tell if you're like, if you need this sale or whatever, right? They can tell you
Mm.
you need to work with someone who's has their bases covered already so that they're not stressing about their money and making some kind of decision to try to make a faster buck or a bigger return, right? They need to be mentally stabilized as well as you. So it's just the mindset. Like I said, we'll pull this stuff out. We'll talk. Like if someone wants to make some big drastic change, why did something change? Did I miss something here? This what we talk about? Our plan in January change from April. And I'm also calling people. Like if I see it going bad or if I see whatever I see, I'll call my
Mm.
clients ahead of time. So April when it went to whatever it went to, I was talking to my clients. Like I was calling them. They don't have to call me in that situation. And I let them know, like, I'll reach out to you if I see something. So they know if I'm not calling them, like, and I'm not gonna call them panicking ever, because I know that in the long run it goes up and to the right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great proactive approach because, when I worked at firms or, I remember we did get the most calls when the Capitol storming the Capitol happened that day. And that was a lot of calls and clients were wanting to get out. And I was just like, man, this is overwhelming. And then, of course, the major one I remember was when Facebook IPO'd and the Facebook IPO was delayed and everybody was freaking out. And just the day before, they were selling out of their mutual funds so they can purchase the IPO shares and they paid the fees. And
Mm,
yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of people and a lot of advisors, especially those that are maybe tepid or just, don't really want to face kind of what's going on, will delay calling clients. And that's where other advisors, maybe like you and other firms, start to pick off at some of those clients because, no one else, like I said before, is going to call them, then you certainly will, I imagine. So that's definitely very interesting. And when it comes to like, the future of the firm and as we kind of close up and wrap up here for yourself and just for with the firm itself, like what's your vision for the firm's growth? Like, are you building a practice around your own capacity or, so I know you mentioned you only want maybe 100, 150 clients and I've seen a lot of IRAs and some of them are well intentioned. Some of them just don't understand anything about how it works. And, they may sell a course on TikTok or something like that, how to become a money manager and hedge funder and all this stuff. But when it comes to your vision, like, are you wanting like a lifestyle IRA? Are you looking to maybe get it acquired or, maybe pass this on to another legacy? But, what's kind of the systems you're building now for the future and going forward for yourself?
Right, I guess the term would be maybe boutique, but the asset size will be more than boutique. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, it'll be, it'll be something. Like I said, I enjoy what I do, so I don't ever like really see myself like retiring from this.
Mm,
There are people who just don't
okay.
really retire. Like people just continue to do what they do. So in some form or capacity, I do enjoy financial literacy. So I serve on board director. So eventually, I'd like to spend even more time helping on that side. But once I reach to maybe my capacity. Yeah, I would love to be able to take the time and if any of my children decide they want to join in this environment one day, sure, man, you can sign on and
Yeah.
But it would have to be someone, it would have to be someone that would be, that understands me, understands the ABC squared, the philosophies that we live by, breathe by here. We're helping Main Street and Wall Street. We're just trying to help normal people with
Yeah.
everyday problems. But there are also like people don't like you said, there are people there are people who have W-2 jobs right now that I know that who would just be great financial advisors. So maybe one day they'll like realize it and maybe they'll want to come work with me. I don't know. But for now, I'm looking just to keep it with myself, grow as needed, but I'm never looking to have like even if I was to bring another advisor on, or eventually maybe say one of my children or something, we got to another point, I wouldn't want them to have more than 100 and 150 clients either. Like, we're not going to be the place where one person has 500 clients, 1,000 clients, because then we won't be able to do the type of work that we want to do. We're not helping people the way we should, in my opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. Quality over quantity is kind of, especially in this game, very valued. I think there are a lot of firms and a lot of advisors that may just turn a client for a couple annuities, couple insurance, maybe throw them into an IRA, and that's kind of the only real talk. And then after that, they're on an email campaign, for example, for updates. So that's good that you have that method and the ideal about, I want to be very boutique niche. I want to know all my family's names. I want to know their spouse's names. I want to know their kids' names. I want to know everything about them to the point that, if someone were to pass out of my clients, then I know what to do next with their money and they know to come to me. So that's a great philosophy. I really like that. You mentioned that, Marcus. Um,
Exactly. Have you
yeah,
ever have you ever seen the show Silicon Valley?
Oh, I love Silicon Valley, Dinesh. And I mean, that's
So
why I sort of got into this business. I used to be in finance and manage money and do everything, but then I'm like, I've discovered the data side and I'm like, it's so lucrative and it's better. But yeah, that's
so
my favorite show. But what's the reference
so
you were going to
so
say?
in a perfect world, my RIA would work like middle out compression.
Middle out compression. Yeah.
Like
Like
what they were
I
trying
don't
to
want to
get
do
where
it
it
for the
just like
show, but yeah, the figuring out the
right.
middle out.
So that would be,
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm actually talking with a developer right now and we're trying to create something for what we call the brain at the moment, where it's essentially an all-in-one employee and it's an autonomous bot. And I'll write about it later, but you're exactly right. Like the only way that you can get it to work is you have to make the files smaller, you have to automate it, and as well as getting it smaller, it has to push out the new thing as well. So
right.
yeah, that's a
Exactly.
funny show. Anybody, if you haven't seen Silicon Valley, I promise you, it's so true to what's going on in Silicon Valley and BC capital world right now, to the T. It's and especially with AI, everybody's getting money thrown at them with the pulse, even if it's vaporware.
Right.
Um,
Vaporware.
Perfect. So Marcus, going, tell me a little bit about, what's been the most unexpected joy, let's kind of get lighter here of being a founder. I mean, I know you mentioned earlier about you're an employer and you're an employee and the employer decides to sell their business or decides to get indicted or something happens and you lose your job. So like what's been kind of the biggest joy you've found being a founder of this practice?
It's all the biggest joy and the biggest fear. That's like it's all on, well, like I said, my wife too, she helps a lot. But as far as like going out and getting, it's pretty much all on me with that.
Mm,
That's a thrill. It's exhilarating, but it's also like it can be, a thing to think about and in the long run of it. But I enjoy the freedom it provides. It allows me more time with my family, believe it or not, because it just takes some of the things away. I know we spoke offline. I was telling my sister-in-law is sick now. My children just getting older, just want to spend a little more time with them. So it's a great thing. If you are a person who doesn't mind learning and working hard, you're gonna have to work hard. I think people think that just because you own your business that you don't have to work hard. You need like things are just gonna come to you. You need structure. You gotta have your structure. I'm a structured person, so I like the structure. I like the freedom it provides inside the structure. I like to be able to think creatively and freely. Right. So, and also one of the biggest things would be with the media, like when you type something, if you're at a big firm, you gotta send it into compliance to get it
Yes.
reviewed. And by the time it gets back, they probably told you to change it maybe, and then whatever you're doing it for is probably already passed. So I know not to say anything like crazy and make personal recommendations when I'm speaking on broad things.
But
Protect
just
myself.
having that freedom to be creative, because I agree with you. When you work at a wirehouse firm, and my very first advisor job was at Merrill, and I remember going through development, and they had a whole week of just you can't send anything that we don't pre-approve. And you're right. When you're running a campaign or you're trying to get a certain, let's say something happened with the market that week, or a certain tax law change happened, and you want to get it out to clients so that you can maybe get some, referrals and things like that. And you're waiting a couple of weeks to get approval. So that's a good point as well. The freedom to be creative with what you're doing, and you being the end of the day person that decides this is the vision and the track we're going on. So that's very cool, and that's quite a rare thing in the world we live in now. People pretty much always working 9 to 5s, very afford to live. But now that you've got a firm and that you're growing, what's one thing that I guess you would say that you desperately wish you knew day one, Marcus, before launching your firm? That if I were to do this over again, or if I were to tell someone else that's new to the industry, what would you do differently than maybe what you've done so far, if anything?
Okay, so like I said, you probably will want to work with like another firm to get
Mm,
started. But truth be told, I would have liked to start it sooner. I would like to done it sooner, right? Like gotten started in the process sooner, gotten this business going sooner. Because it's like I said, so with the creative freedom, with the lifestyles that changes, you still have to work. You still have to work very hard. Like don't think that there's like a magic pill to success for this. It's about the reps, whatever your reps may be. Some people make cold calls, some people go knock on doors, literally, knocking on doors. It just depends on what it is, but whatever you do, you're gonna have to put in the hard work and you're gonna have to put in the time. So I would I would tell myself to maybe give myself more time for the process. Don't get frustrated with that because I just thought it would be, I don't know, 6 weeks to get approved, and it ended up being
mm.
almost twice as long as that. So just with that time, but that time also worked out where it just gave me more time to be more creative and just type and write things and talk to people because in that processing time, you can't prospect, you can't go out and try to get clients, like you can't do that. So it's just more of giving away information at that time, just giving away knowledge, whatever knowledge I may have.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Well, I did the same thing with the state of Arizona corporate commission. It took what I thought was going to be a month, and it ended up being 2 months because I had a weird structure, and they kept asking me follow-up questions after follow-up questions. A lot of people, and glad you point that out, Marcus, think that if the firm's going to start up within 30 days and you're going to be rolling in clients and managing assets, and it's rarely the case, especially when it comes to the approval process, which like you said, minimum takes 30 days sometimes. So it's smart that you were, like a lot of people, very structured, where you want to build out what type of clients am I going to work with? What's the campaign? What's our niche? What's kind of like how we see ourselves versus the world of other firms, and what's kind of our driver for clients versus what's generic out there. So that's awesome
Right.
that you guys have that. Now, when it comes to yourself, I mean, besides the firm, we talked about business, we talked about your clients. Now, tell me a little bit more about how can clients reach you? How can firms reach you? Do you have, I saw, I believe you have a website. Can you tell us a little bit about, how clients can contact you, and how firms can get in touch with you if they choose to when it comes to sharing clients?
All right, yeah. So we have a website, the ABC Squared. You can go
Okay.
in, get on the Calendly link there. We can connect on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Marcus Sturdivant Senior. I have a junior, so Marcus Sturdivant Senior on LinkedIn. Actually have a page with my name that I just said, all in one word, with a collection of some of the things I've been quoted in with the media, a couple of podcasts. So that's like if someone wants to get in touch with me, you can go listen to the podcast. You can read some of what I've been quoting in. Like that's a good way with the media to figure out maybe if you even have the same type of philosophy and investment that I may have, because I'm pretty transparent when I put this stuff out here. Uh, if you think maybe you would want to work with me that way, it would be a good way of seeing my voice, seeing how I operate.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to readers and listeners, I'm going to include the Skeptic's Guide to Investing. I thought that was a really great initial podcast when I heard about Marcus, and asked him to come on to our initial inaugural post and podcast, because being a new firm ourselves, also want to talk to new firms at big firms. So I'm glad that you came on, Marcus, and I will include everything in the short show notes, your podcast, your website, and of course, where you were featured, so that if readers and clients would like to take a look at it, definitely, I encourage everyone to do so. Before I let you go, Marcus, I want to say thank you. Happy 4th of July. But can let me just ask one more question for some of our readers. What's kind of the most impactful book you've recently read, be it finance or non-finance, or what's kind of a book that you're like, I found myself reading it a couple times. It's had different iterations or understanding and meaning to it every single time I read it, and it's helped me in my business life or my personal life. What kind of book do you think that would be for you?
All right, so it's interesting. I didn't know that you realized I was a reader. I do like to read. Like I read different types of things all the time. So like I read
Yeah.
like two or three different types of books at a time. Like one thing is like just technical, like
Mm.
for like right now I'm doing CFP study, so I'm reading that technical stuff right now. So I'll spend take yeah, I block off time for reading every day too. So I'll read that. Then I'll have something that's not technical, like I'm reading The Wealth of Nations now, but I've read like stocks for the long run before that, 10x easier and 2x. But the book that I kind of continue to read and I love is The Art of War. Once
The Art of
again, it's
War.
so
Good one.
cliche, but The Art of War is just as far as like sitting back and seeing the vision and knowing different things. I really enjoy the art of war.
Yeah, that's perfectly eloquent. I can definitely agree with that. It's one of those books where reflection, understanding, and just making sure that you know thyself. Essentially, that they know thyself.
Right.
And that's really cool that you have that book as your approach as well. So, Marcus, I want to thank you so much. And like I said, I'll definitely include everything for our readers and listeners in the show notes, how you can contact Marcus, his firm, a little bit more about his other podcasts and features he's done. But again, thank you all for listening to the initial inauguration of Behind the AAUM. And Marcus, thank you very much for coming online with us as well.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Stephen. Appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Let me end recording. That was awesome.